Good morning, everybody, and welcome to PSG of Mercer County, and happy Aloha Friday. And yes, I continue to wear my Hawaiian shirt. One thing kind of nice being virtual is it doesn't matter if it's getting chilly outside, I can still easily wear my Hawaiian shirt. So we will be virtual for a little while longer. We'll see how the pandemic and health authorities advise us, but we are able to keep our meetings virtual for as long as we need. And if there are any tennis fans out there, of course, the French Open just completed last week. But for tennis fans, happy 23rd birthday to Naomi Osaka. She is the 2020 US Open champ. She was also the 2018 US Open champ. And so today is her 23rd birthday. So it does seem some of these young people are very athletically accomplished. So welcome to PSG of Mercer County. We are a group that is here for you. Anybody that is in any kind of job search, and it doesn't really matter why, whether your own company has made their own decision to reorganize and it impacted you, or you may be taking your own career in your own hands, wanting to change your career and direction. Or maybe you're coming off of your own chosen gap time to take care of family, whether young ones or older relatives, and that was an obligation for you, and now you're looking to get back into the job market. We are here to help make you more efficient and more effective in your own job search. For those of you that are visiting us for the very first time, a special welcome, and want to let you know that we do have a LinkedIn group. Our LinkedIn group has over 1,600 members, all of whom have been to our program here at least once, whether in person, when we met at the Princeton Public Library, or now virtually. And so if you are not yet a member of the group, please search for our group, PSG of Mercer County. Just go search for the group, and you'll find the join group button and press that, and we will immediately put you in pending status. And then later in the day or the week, I will look to see for people who have requested to join and accept them as long as I know you or have met you. So if you and I are meeting for the first time or haven't met before, what you can do is send a quick email to me at psgofmercercounty@gmail.com, psgofmercercounty@gmail.com, and just remind me that you attended the presentation or one of the recent ones, and I'll just validate that you were indeed here. We don't have a means of easily taking attendance otherwise, but that's a good way of doing it. And what's nice that all of our members are only all of our members of group are only members of our in-person group, is we make sure we keep out the list collectors, the salespeople that are only looking to sell to us. Doesn't matter. We're happy that you're a member, even if you're a salesperson. That's not what we're trying to keep out. We're trying to keep out the people that are actively going to solicit from our list. And that's why we just kind of pre-screen people. We do also have a website. Our website is psgofmercercounty.org. It is over 120 pages of web content. And if you haven't seen recently, we do have a whole bunch of e-learning websites, links to e-learning websites. So go to right on the top of the website, the professional development menu item, click on professional development, and in that page, there are a lot of options, and one is e-learning. And when you go there, there are 42 e-learning websites, links directly to them. A lot of them are free. Some of them do require a membership or subscription, so that's your option. And then there are others that you just pay for the course without having to have a whole annual subscription. But a lot of them are free. So, you know, why I think e-learning is just terrific is keep up to date on some of the skills that are changing or evolving, the newest software, the newest techniques, and all that kind of stuff. And if someone ever asks you in your next interview, what have you been doing since you lost your job? You could say, well, I've been studying and I've been taking e-learning. That's certainly a lot more powerful answer than if you said, well, I've been job hunting for the past few months. So it's there, go take advantage of it. If any of you have landed and you want to celebrate, we used to celebrate, of course, in person and hopefully had some cakes or cookies or something. So we're not able to do that unless we all BYO. But at least what you can do is you can, in chat, put a message and just let us know that you've landed, and we could hopefully celebrate that a little later, at least just announce it to everybody. Just before I introduce Ken, I do want to give you just a couple of ground rules. So as a reminder, please keep your microphones muted, keep them off. There's a button at the bottom of the screen. It says mic right below it, M-I-C. So what you are going to want to do is keep that white, not green, because the white color means it's off. Your cameras, you can keep them on or off. It's your choice. Sometimes presenters like to see the folks because, now in webinar format, it's a little harder to, but that's your choice. So if you want to keep your microphone on or off. Now, when it's time to ask questions, just put them in chat. We have a larger group. It's a little hard with a larger group for people just to unmic themselves and talk because we don't want to talk over each other. So just type it in the chat, and to help us see your question, write the word question right before it. So question, tell me more about ageism or whatever it is. And then Ken and I will be looking at that during the program. And even if you've got a question and Ken is mid-slide, ask the question right there in chat, because Ken has about 5 logical stopping points where throughout the program he will stop and we will review those questions. So we'll hope to get all of them. And of course, at the end of the meeting, we will have a question, the Q&A time as well. So that's our ground rules. And let's look real quick. Looks like we're all muted, and that's terrific, which means that I can say PSG of Mercer County is very pleased to welcome back Ken Sher. Ken is a career coach and executive coach with 30 years of experience leading and coaching individuals and managerial teams at companies such as Johnson & Johnson and Bristol-Myers Squibb. In addition to winning multiple achievement awards in various sales and marketing roles, he has led 4 different sales and training and leadership development teams, including a global organization. Ken's teams designed, developed, and delivered leadership training to multiple levels within J&J. Ken is the president of Sher Coaching, and he is dedicated to improving individual and team performance by focusing on his trust success model, which when applied to leadership and career coaching can be transformational. So PSG of Mercer County is very pleased to welcome Coach Ken Sher.
Well, thank you very much. Let me see about getting the, we'll go this way, I guess. Get the slideshow going. And here we go. Well, good morning, everybody. I'm very happy to be back speaking to you folks. There are a number of different groups, similar groups to this one in the area, but I will say, without doubt, no one has a better reputation than the PSG of Mercer County Group, and the quality of content you deliver and the programs you deliver are very high quality, and I hope to live up to that standard myself. Now, the topic of age discrimination or ageism is it's very relevant, because there is really no doubt that there is age discrimination out there. But I'm going to ask you to look at it a little bit differently today, because sometimes I think we could have a tendency of falling back on a reason or an excuse, if you want to call it, for us not getting the job, or for something happened to us at work. And I'll give you an example of that for me. As David mentioned, I was with Johnson & Johnson almost 25 years. And in the last role I had, I ran into a new general manager who literally on the first meeting said to me that he'd run 2 different sales training and leadership development teams, and I would never live up to his expectation. And that was the welcome, the introduction I got to him. And over the next few months, he proved that. And as hard as I tried, I couldn't win him over. And then I found myself in the HR office, and then I found myself driving home just dazed and confused as to why I was not working anymore. And I will say, and I want to share this, I always do share this with people, because I think it's important to know that it was a devastating time for me, and I really was in a very bad way, probably for a good 3 months there. I don't know if anybody's ever suffered, I hope not, from clinical depression. I don't think I was there, but I was right on the edge. And if I fell in, I wasn't sure I was going to come out. And it was a terrible time. And I'm not ashamed to say, but I took some measures. There were 3 things I did to come out of it. 2 of them I'd recommend, 1 I will not. The first one is I sought out therapy. I just needed help to work through this. It was a major loss for me. Then I got some good pharmaceuticals. Those also helped. Some antidepressants weren't good. And then my brother-in-law in an apartment in New York City, he was away for the weekend. And I went on a 2-day bender in New York City to really help me get over that whole situation. And then when I woke up that Sunday morning, I said, okay, this isn't going to work. You've got to do something about it. And the drive home from New York to Pennsylvania, I was cursing at that general manager. I was mad at him and all. But over time, I started to think, maybe he was trying to do me a favor when he told me I wouldn't live up to his expectation. Maybe he was saying to me, Ken, I want my own people in here. Go find a new job. Go do something now so you don't find yourself unemployed. And I didn't get that. Instead, I blamed him instead of maybe looking at myself and saying, I should have taken the hint. I should have gone out and started looking for a job. I finally did, as I mentioned, get over it and work through it. And while I was still in my 50s, I got 3 new full-time jobs, 2 with a consulting firm as a full-time consultant, and the last one with Bristol Myers. And so sometimes I think we have to look at what did we do to not get that job? Is there ageism out there? Yes. Is there sexism? Yes. Is there racism? Yes. And even with ageism, I mean, you could talk about certainly on the higher end of the scale of people who are mid to late career, but also younger people, like millennials, I think are the most maligned generation ever. Everybody always makes fun of millennials. Everybody gets an award. They want everything. So I think you could argue that, everybody has something going against them, and we can't fall back on that as a reason. And the other thing I would say is this: if you get an interview, if you are called in for an interview, then I would say you've got to get that ageism thing out of your head, because the reality is they've probably seen what you look like. They've probably looked on LinkedIn. And, no matter what you do, you can't hide your age. I mean, this is me. I am what I am. And if I put this picture up on LinkedIn and walked in looking like I do, that would be a problem, right? They would know. So my point is, I am not 18 anymore. I am a 60-year-old man. I am what I am, and I need to lead with strength. I need to be proud of that and know that the skills and experiences that I've gained over the years are of value. And if that person called me in for an interview, they're not concerned about my age because they've seen my LinkedIn profile and they know that I look like that guy on the left and I'm not the guy on the right. And even if that wasn't the case, they'd look at my work history and know I've been around for a while. So I think age discrimination would probably show itself more by you not getting interviews than it would once you have the interview. That would be my point. So the thing is that, though, you have to trust that your experience and your skills are a strength, that it's a benefit to you. Over my years at Johnson & Johnson, I feel like I was pretty successful. I made it up through the sales ranks, marketing ranks. You heard about some of my leadership positions that I had. And a lot of it was because of trust. I really think that trust is the foundation of all success. And the first thing you need to do as an applicant, as a candidate looking for a job, is you need to be confident in yourself. You can't have any doubt about, oh, I'm too old, oh, they're going to think this or think that. You have to be strong and confident and believe in yourself. And then obviously what you need to do is create that belief in the interviewers. They need to know that you're reliable, that you're trustworthy, that you have the ability to get it done. And that's up to you. And when you're in that interview, you can do that. And that's what you need to do. And I believe since trust is such a foundation of success, I built what I call the trust success model. And like any great acronym, any great model, it has an acronym. And you see it there in front of you. It stands for transparency, results, understanding, simplify, and team. And this, I'm going to go through each one of those briefly to show how you could use it to not only overcome age discrimination, but to be as effective and successful as you can in your interview, in your job search. So we're going to cover a lot of things today. We're going to talk about how to minimize the negatives that are maybe associated with age and how to bring out those positives. We'll talk about how to just get it off the table completely. what you should do and say in interviews and with your marketing materials, how this trust success model can help you. And then we're also going to talk about making sure that you make it very clear in interviews that you are the person that needs to be in that role. Now, the fact is the age discrimination law came into effect in 1967, and it basically says what we all know: you can't discriminate against somebody because of their age, and they call it starting at 30 years old. The fact of the matter is it's really hard to prove. When I was laid off by J&J, I called a lawyer. I said, there's an expression, I don't know if you folks are familiar with it at Johnson & Johnson, that you don't go gray at J&J. And everybody said to me, Ken, that's why you let you go, because you're older, you're 52, you're over 50, they're getting rid of you. And I wanted to believe that. I did for a while. And when I went to the attorney, she said, yeah, I'd be glad to take your money, but chances are you're not going to win this thing, and you're going to lose your severance package. So although age discrimination is out there, it's just really hard to prove, and it's not something that you necessarily want to, you don't want to fall back on it. You want to be working instead of having to deal with this. But the question is, what is age discrimination? Is it that people are saying, oh, I don't want to hire him because he's over 50. I don't want to hire her because she looks like she's older. That has nothing to do with it, age. If you are familiar with Simon Sinek, he has one of the, if not the most popular YouTube out there, and he talks about why. And I believe he says you need to ask why 7 times before you really get to the reason. So if someone is not hiring you because of your age, or you think it's because of your age, it's not that you're 50, it's that maybe you didn't show that you were up to date and up to speed with things that are happening in the market. Maybe you presented yourself with low energy. It's not that I'm 60, it's just that I was kind of sluggish and had really no energy when I was talking to them. It's not that I'm 60, it may be that I haven't kept up with technology and I can't do the job as well as somebody who has. Regardless, it could be another 60-year-old person, but they know technology, they're going to win that job. And then there are other things that come across that can be interpreted as age discrimination, but I would argue that I don't care if you're 60 or 20, if you're the best person for the job and you can help me be more successful, and you demonstrate that in an interview, I'd be a fool and I won't be in business too long if I'm choosing people because of an age. I'm choosing people because of these things on the screen, that these things that people either demonstrate or don't demonstrate in an interview. So when you get that interview, make sure you go in there and you're going in with energy and enthusiasm and you're looking to win that job. So if you're newly out of work and you're just trying to figure out what's going on, or maybe you're just not even sure and you want to reset, from a high level, you just want to kind of look at things and think, what do I want to do? Where do I want to go? You know, when people hit 40, 50, 60 years old, we start to have different priorities and different thoughts about what we want to do. When I was a product director at Johnson & Johnson, the next level up would have been group product director. And I remember leaving my office, and I'd always felt like if I do the best job I can do and I really show them what I got, I'm going to get to the next level. And I always aspired for that. I focused on what I was doing, but the goal was the next level, next level, next level. And as product director, I was leaving my office one day, and it was about 6:30, and I looked next door at my boss and friend. His name was Jeff. And I said, Jeff, I'm out of here. I'll see you tomorrow. And he turned around from his computer, and he looked at me. And he just looked all drawn and just tired and stressed out. And I was a little concerned. I said, Jeff, what's up? He said, nothing. I just have to get this report done. The president of the company's giving me grief. And I got stuff at home I got to do. And as I was driving home that night, it struck me. I do not have any further aspirations for getting up higher in the ladder. I don't need to be a group product director, a vice president, or a president. I looked at the stress and aggravation that he had, and I looked at what I had, and I had plenty, but I didn't want any more than that. And it was a very strange time for me to change from having an aspiration to do more to just want to stay at this level as a director, maybe do different director roles. But I realized that I had always done things because it seemed like that's what I'm supposed to do. I'm supposed to keep going, keep going, and keep going. And so while you're in your position now, think about, what do you really want to do? Do you want to go back to what you were doing? And maybe you do, and that's perfectly fine. And that's probably even maybe the easiest route to go. But it's also an opportunity for you to think, what else might I want to do? And if you want to change careers, it maybe makes it a little more challenging, but it's certainly not impossible, and it's certainly happening. And regardless of your age, 40, 50, 60 years old, people are getting hired. So think about what you want to do. Think about the skill sets you have and maybe you need to develop. Think about your marketing materials and are they sending the message you want to send for that role you want to go for. And then think about the industries and the companies you want to target. And regardless of what else you decide, the fact of the matter is, chances are your next job is going to come through someone you know, through networking. I think the statistics are 70, 75% of all jobs are landed through someone you know. 10 to 15% are from a recruiter, and only 5% of jobs are landed by people posting online. And that makes sense just because there probably are hundreds, if not thousands of people posting for those jobs, if they're even real jobs at all on Indeed.com and places like that. But remember, it's 5%, it's not impossible, but what I think you should do with those statistics is use your time accordingly. You should probably spend maybe 3/4 of your time networking, building your network, doing things like that. 10 to 15% of your time with recruiters and 5% of your time posting online. And then when you get started, you need to think about who you are. You know, we're not kids anymore, those of us in this 40, 50, 60-year-old range. We can't dress like that, but we do have to adapt and dress appropriately. It's interesting, I hadn't heard it for a long time, but in the last 2 weeks, I had 2 clients say to me, actually they weren't even clients, just people talking to me through networking. And they said, yeah, they had this really good interview with this company, but they think they lost the job because they were wearing a suit and tie on the call. And when they looked at the interviewers, they were wearing button-down shirts and nothing, no jacket even. And I don't know if that really is why they lost the job, but it does send a message. If you're wearing a suit and tie to a startup company, you're not matching the culture. And the people on the other end of that interview may be saying, no, this is not a good match here. So you need to go out and try to learn what that culture is. You could learn from the company website. You might be able to connect with people at the company to learn about things about the culture, including how to dress appropriately. You also want to make sure you have a hairstyle that's today. If you have a mullet, anybody with mullets, I think it's time to kind of get that one taken care of. And then you also want to look as good as you can. You know, I feel like I'm relatively fit. I've been I'm not totally obsessed, but I'm into Peloton these days. My gym has one, and I really like that. And people say, oh, Ken, you look good. Well, when I take my shirt off, and I'll spare you all that, it doesn't look so good. I got to be honest with you, and I could definitely lose a good 15 or 20 pounds. But dress appropriately. You know, you can cover it up, and I guess somehow I buy good clothes that nobody knows just how fat I am. But still, it's about looking good and presenting yourself as positively as you can. Now, the places where age discrimination can show up, they're pretty obvious, right? In your resume, in LinkedIn, or during interviews. And so you have to be aware of that. What messages are you sending out that might be signaling to someone that you're old and out of date? And again, it's not old, it's the out of date, it's the not keeping up. That's the issue, it's not the age. And so we're going to walk through the trust success model and go through each one of these briefly to show how you can use it to present yourself in the best way possible. The first thing, again, you want to do as you're figuring out your direction is think about the things you've done in the past. Think about your favorite roles. Write down the skills that you have, the things you love to do, the things you hate to do. What do you want to be a leader, a part of a team, and where do you want to be, and what kind of work environment do you want to work in? And all these things are important, and I really suggest that you really take the time to be introspective and write these things down. And it'll serve a few different purposes. It'll, first of all, remind you of all the great things you've done in your career. You know, losing your job, it's a blow to the ego. It can really shatter your confidence. But if you take the time and sit down and remember the different things you've done, and keep that somewhere. I actually used to carry around a piece of paper to remind myself, you know what, I did do a lot. I do have value. And I'd pull it out every now and then when I was feeling really down. But the other benefit of that is as you're preparing for interviews, as you're putting your resume and LinkedIn profile together, you have this stuff there. So there are a lot of good reasons to actually document, write it down, type it down, your all the experiences and great outcomes you've had in your career. Then you need to develop a personal brand. You need to be able to clearly communicate who you are and what you stand for. Your personal brand differentiates you from everybody. And there, you know, besides the ultimate goal of landing a job, the things you need to do in a job search are stand out from the crowd, show people the value that you bring, and you obviously then need to win that job. And so the personal brand, which comes out as your elevator speech, it could come out as a summary on your resume or in the about section of LinkedIn. Your personal brand statement is what separates you from everyone. And just in case anybody's wondering about branding, how important is branding? If I were to say to you folks, a little dab will do you. I know that people of my generation would know right away that that's Bro Cream. I don't know when the last time I saw that commercial is, but it's the truth. Be all you can be. That's about the Army, right? The Breakfast of Champions is Wheaties. That's a brand. That brand, that Breakfast of Champion, actually first came about in the 1930s. And here we are 90 years later. And I know most of you who are, again, of my generation, knew Breakfast of Champions from Wheaties. So the question is, what do people think about when they hear your name? What is the brand associated with you? And if you don't know it or you're not sure, ask people. Ask former colleagues, former supervisors, former clients, what do you think about when you think of me? In terms of work, when you think of Ken Sher, what are the first things that come to your mind? And if it's not what you want, then you need to figure out how to change that, and it's probably through LinkedIn, resume, and some of the stuff that you do. But the other thing that a personal brand statement will give you, or that elevator speech, is the answer to the dreaded interview question, so tell me about yourself. I will say to you that when people say, tell me about yourself, when I'm practicing with clients and they say, well, in 2000, I started as a project manager here, and then they go through their resume, I would say by the second job, they've lost me. It's just not interesting. But I will say, though, and I think, too, and I'm going to ask you guys to challenge yourselves, if you've been in networking meetings where you go around the room and you say, introduce yourself with your elevator speech, how many of those elevator speeches do you really know what that person does? How many of them do you know how you can help them? And then think of yours. And again, practice it with somebody. Say, hey, here's my elevator speech. Tell me back, what do you hear? Tell me what you think I do or what I represent. What's the most important thing? And again, if you're not getting back what you want to, then you're not giving out the message you want to, and you need to tweak it and make it right. So let me give you a couple of examples of elevator speech, brand statement, again, the answer to the tell me about yourself question. One is, for me, I help people figure out the job market to find their next opportunity. That's how I start. And I want people to say, oh, that's interesting, because I know, yeah, that job market is crazy. I don't know, you know, especially, by the way, people in their 50s, 60s, if you're like me, LinkedIn, social media, what the heck did I know of that? So people may be interested in that. And then I say I'm a career coach and executive coach. And my clients say I help them achieve more by relating to their situation and inspiring them while developing their job search or leadership skills beyond where they thought their career could go. And hopefully that creates a clear picture. Oh, Ken helps people be more successful. Here's another one for you. I'm a project manager who's known for delivering projects on time and under budget. Now, if I'm hiring for a project manager, that's kind of what I'm looking for, right? And then I would say my colleagues have told me they appreciate how I look to understand what desired outcome will be, and I'm relentless in focusing on that in everything that we do. And my approach is disciplined and flexible, and results typically meet or exceed expectation. You know, if you know someone in the field of, and whatever that is. Now that obviously is not in an interview, but if you're in a networking conversation, that's where you would want to take it. And then here's one last one, and that is, I'm a master planner and organizer who has successfully run a household of 3 children, and I can't see the end of it because it's being blocked by the screen here, but you get my point. And 1 spouse, there we go. And then I might say, my fellow stay-at-home parents have told me they admire how I'm able to get things done while engaging everybody into the project. And I make it challenging and fun. And many of those skills are similar skills that I used when I was a project manager or I was a sales manager. And I'm looking to use those skills and experience in this kind of industry. Now, there's one common thing here that I personally think is very powerful. And that is, you see here, I say my fellow stay-at-home parents. In the other ones, I said my colleagues say, or people have told me that. Especially for those of you who find it difficult to kind of brag on yourself, or you feel like, it's not much. What I do, everybody does what I do, right? Which is not the case. But to be able to say it that way, people have told me this about myself. It's more interesting, and it's actually more credible to say it that way. So take being transparent, relearn about yourself, or confirm those things about yourself that you want to make sure you're projecting. Test it with other people to make sure the message you think you're giving out is the message you're giving out. And that will really help you focus everything. You'll have a consistent message from your networking conversations to LinkedIn, to your resume, to interview answers. So with that, I'm going to take a break right here just to see. Anybody have any questions about how you want to kind of set your foundation to be able to move forward and find that next job?
So Ken, we do have a few questions. I'll read them off.
Okay.
The first one's from Gary. Several years ago, when I was already a very senior age, I had an interview with the president of a company. The discussion was going very well when suddenly he said to me, "By the way, Gary, how old are you?" How should I answer a question? Or how should a candidate answer a question such as that?
Yeah, that's really a tough one, right? Because you don't want to be argumentative. You don't want to be hiding anything. I may repeat myself later on this one, but I'm going to come around to that answer. Sometimes the question is not even that blatant. It may be, aren't you overqualified for this job? And if you think about that question, again, it's the why. Why are they asking me that? And so I would, by the way, if you ever get that question, ask, well, can you tell me more about that? In this case, how old are you? My question would be, oh, wow, I didn't expect to get that question. Is there any reason why you want to know that? And in the overqualified question, by the way, and both of them, the reason you want to know that is because you want to make sure you answer the right question. So in the overqualified question, it could be they think you get paid too much, they think you're going to get bored on the job, they think you're going to just take this job until you find something better. The supervisor may think you're taking it so you could get their job. And if you answer it, let's say about salary, but they're really more concerned that you're going to get bored with the job, then you really haven't answered their question. And the same thing with somebody asking you, how old are you? I would ask them, and I would be a little surprised, because it probably was surprising, Gary, I would bet, and say, wow, I didn't expect that. Is there any reason why you're asking that? And they may say, yeah, I'm just curious, like, have you kept up with technology, or are you, how comfortable are you with technology? Then you can address it. I know my first reaction, and maybe yours too, Gary, was, you got to be kidding me. You really asking me that question? But that's not going to help you win the job. I hope that helps.
So John has a question. Do you view all the time you spent at J&J as a mistake?
No, actually, that's a great question. I will tell you, I was so angry when I left. At 52 years old, J&J has this thing, when you hit 55 with a certain amount of years of service, you get benefits through Medicare, at the J&J price, and you get other benefits when you hit 55. And I was 52 and they let me go. So I was mad. But then when it took a long time, and I still sometimes, by the way, get really angry about it, but not as angry as I used to. I have a great life. I mean, we lived 25 years in Doylestown. We had a beautiful house. We had a swimming pool. I was able to pay for all my kids' college. Right now, we live in Center City, Philadelphia, in an amazing apartment that we rent. And I really owe all of that to J&J. So no, I do not view it as a mistake. And also, it helped me find coaching again because I realized all my jobs at J&J, coaching was the thing I loved best. And I'm back doing it. So I have J&J to thank for that.
Okay, and Anne has a question. I've heard that the only wrong answer to the question, where do you want to be in 5 years, are in your job or retired. How do you handle that question in your 60s?
I think that's a good one. That's a tough question. Where do you want to be in 5 years? I guess I would answer it that, one of the things that the reason why I'm here talking to you is because I love to work. And I am excited about this role we're talking about. And really, in 5 years, I would love to be sitting here with you telling me that I was the best hire you ever made. And I really believe that I could be, if I get that opportunity to use the skills and experiences I have in this role to help you be as successful as you could possibly be. I mean, that's just a top of mind answer that I might go with. What do you think, David? Was that an okay answer?
Works for me.
Okay.
And Stephanie asks, could you recommend some good books on personal branding?
Actually, I'm afraid to say I cannot at this point. Let me think about that, and I could get something to David, who he could distribute it to you guys. Good question. I'm writing a note so I don't forget.
Wait, Barbara just posted one. Let's see. For those who have taken new jobs, how much training or support is commonplace for a new company to provide? Do they expect an older candidate to know it all and be totally self-sufficient in what they bring? I feel I can bring a lot to the table, but also need to be supported.
Yeah, I think that is important, and every company is going to be different. And I think, that's something you could ask in the interview process. But I wouldn't just say, what kind of training, I don't know what I'm doing, what kind of training will you give me? But, I'm going to come into this role, and there's a lot of things I'm going to bring to this role that are really going to help me be successful. But I'm sure there are things, processes, procedures, things that you do here that you want done a certain way. What kind of training or support would I get once I'm in this role, from the start? I might ask something like that. And then the other thing is, once in role, I would, do everything I can. If ever I was asking for help, I might say, I might just let them know it's not that I'm totally lost or I'm not trying. Either, hey, I tried this way because that's how I used to do it, but how is it done here? Or I was given this project. I got to be honest with you, I'm not sure exactly where to start. Can you help get me going there? Once you're in the job, I think if you can do that easier and then demonstrate your value, it shouldn't be a problem.
Okay, let's move on. Thank you.
Okay, so let's talk about results, the second part of the trust success model. And I really want to focus on your resume here, because as I mentioned early on, in terms of age, this is where you can really hurt yourself. There are 3 styles of resumes. The chronological one is the one that most of us are familiar with and use. You start with, you have your summary statement, you might have skills or accomplishments, and then you would have your work experience from your most recent job back. The functional resume is one that really doesn't include dates, because maybe you're changing careers, for example, and you want to just pull examples or skills or results out and kind of put them all together up top so people see what you did related to that job you're trying to get. Then there's the combination, which is, interestingly enough, a combination of the chronological and functional. My recommendation, and I think it does I'll tell you why it makes the most sense, is to go with the combination, which, believe it or not, you're probably all doing right now, or most of you are. The functional resume, the reason why I don't think it's good is because you don't have dates on it necessarily, and it kind of could come across that you're trying to hide something. And it's really also a little difficult for people to read and understand, and most importantly, the applicant tracking system doesn't do so well with functional resumes. But the combination resume allows you to do a little of both. So from a format point of view, your resume should start with a strong summary statement. Then you can have what I like to do. I like people to consider that summary as kind of your thesis statement. This is who I am. Should be a little forward-looking as well. And then I like to have accomplishments to prove that thesis statement. And then I would have skills, and the skills are what kind of come to that functional part. So list the skills based on the job description, based on the job posting that you have, because again, an applicant tracking system is looking for those things. And then you go through the chronological order of your work experience. So it's summary, accomplishments, skills, work experience. All right. Now, some facts, fun facts of resume. You have on average 6 to 8 seconds to capture a recruiter's attention when they're looking at your resume, or 5 to 7 seconds, depending on which slide you're looking at. And 76% of resumes are discarded for unprofessional email addresses. So it was a very sad day for me when I had to get rid of that kenstud@aol.com email address. But folks, if you don't have Gmail or something like that, you need to change your address. I actually had never seen, really, or very infrequently see people with pictures on the resume, but 3/4 of actually 9 out of 10 of those are rejected. And I think there's a legal reason for that. People feel like, I don't even want to consider this resume because if I don't accept it, they could say it's because I'm this or I'm that, and it could lead to legal issues. And that, I don't totally understand that, to be honest with you, because they could look at your LinkedIn profile and they'll see your picture anyway. But that's the way it goes. And then also you have to know that 3/4 of resumes are eliminated by the ATS. And so let's talk about some of these things. Now, one of the dead giveaways of age is whether you have a summary statement or a objective at the top of your resume. Now, I mentioned that you have just a few seconds to capture a reader's attention. And that first line on your resume needs to be powerful. Now, the difference is the objective statement is what we used to write in the old days. I'm looking for a company that can help me develop my skills and attain a leadership position, blah, blah, blah. That's about you. And one thing to remember through this job search process is, interestingly enough, it's not about you. It's about what you can do for the company, what you can do for that hiring manager. So if you have an objective on your resume, that is saying old-fashioned, living in the past, not up to speed. The summary should be maybe 2 sentences up top, maybe 3 lines on your resume, and it needs to be powerful, attention-getting, hard-hitting, so that that reader says, whoa, I want to keep reading beyond this 5 to 7 seconds. So instead of saying something like, I'm a project manager who excels in high-pressure situations and enjoys leading teams to success, very generic. But if it's something more like, I'm a project manager who has developed processes and procedures that have reduced order turnaround times by as much as 20% and reduced cost by 15%, or whatever, that could be it. That could be the opening statement. If I'm reading that, I'm saying, whoa, those are some pretty good accomplishments. Let me keep going. And that's why I say the next thing could be 2 or 3 bullet point accomplishments. Here's where I did it. At XYZ company, updated the computer system and the process to pull products and get them in the shipping line, and resulting in saving the company $2 million over a 5-year period. And so I'm proving that summary statement up top. And then the skills would come after that. So if you have an objective statement, you need to change that to a summary statement. So that's the attention grabbing part. Then throughout, you want to hold the interest. That's where accomplishments come in, and I'll talk a little more about those. And you want to tell a story as best you can. But if you're applying online, and that would be a last resort, right? If you see a job online that you're interested in, your first thing to do should be try to find someone at that company that might be able to help you get in, or find somebody who knows somebody at that company that might help you get in. But there comes a point where you may need to apply online. And so the applicant tracking system is looking for keywords and phrases that match that job description best. And those, depending on how many you match, are either going into the rejection direction or going into the let me look further into this direction. So you want to have those keywords and phrases, but where do you find them? How do you find them? Well, there are a couple of programs out there that you should know about. One is called Wordle.net. That's W-O-R-D as in David, L-E.net. And one is called WordArt.com. And what you could do with those is you could copy a job description and paste it into the column in one of those sites. And then you can hit visualize, for example. You import and then hit visualize on WordArt, I'm talking particular. And it will create a word cloud for you, similar to what you see here. And the bigger the words, the more prevalent they are in that document. And those will be most likely the keywords that they're looking for. And so I would suggest that if you're going for a job, you might find 3 or 5 job descriptions or job postings. Copy and paste them into wordart.com, for example, and look at them all and see what are the keywords that are coming out from all of those. And those are the words you want to make sure you include in your resume, throughout your resume, and in your LinkedIn profile. And so when I mentioned to you, you're going to have your summary, then you're going to have accomplishment statements, then you're going to have skills. That's probably a big part of where you want to make sure those keywords are. But you do want to have them throughout your resume as well. The other thing about your resume that I see this all the time is you need to have 2 types of statements. And you folks have experience and have skills, and it may be hard for you to see them right now, but you need to figure out a way to bring out those accomplishments. So every job you have should have a responsibility statement. Again, it's 1 or 2 sentences tops, 3 lines on your resume. It's just telling, here's what I was supposed to do. Could be right out of the job description. It's very black and white. This is what it is. And that needs to be followed by 3 to 5 bullet point accomplishment statements. This is what differentiates you. If you only have statements that say responsible for this, responsible for that, you know, those things don't tell me how well you did something. They don't even tell me that you did it at all. And in fact, responsibility statements, I could look at all your resumes and I could take your responsibility statement and put it on my resume, even though I probably never did what you did. But it's the accomplishment statements that separate you, that differentiate you from the crowd. And those, you know, they're accomplishment statements if they contain words like resulting in, leading to, with the outcome of, or you know, the company changed their, you know, if you have data, that's best, right? And salespeople, often it's easier for them. You make quota, you don't make quota, things like that. But it doesn't have to be always about data. You might have changed a process to make things more efficient. You might have done something that the entire company has taken over because you did it and showed it to be successful in your role, and now everybody's using it. And I find with people that when I'm able to, you know, they may, when I have conversations with my clients and we dig into this stuff, what I find is that oftentimes they feel like, well, that was just part of my job. Everybody did that. Well, you know what? It's not always the case. And oftentimes the results and outcomes there that my client didn't realize were really great results or outcomes. So take the time to really dig into your past and think about it. I'll tell a very quick story here. Years ago, my wife and I went on this long bike ride. And we came back, and my wife took off her biking gloves, and her engagement ring was gone. And we kind of freaked out. We got in the car. We retraced our path. We went into the Starbucks we stopped at, went to the police station to see if anybody returned it. I was down on my hands and knees with a flashlight looking in the sewer grate for it. We couldn't find it. So we went home, and I'd never done this before. Maybe I just watched a Columbo or something on TV. And I said, Mark, let's go through everything we did before we went on that bike ride. And she talked about how she got out of bed, and she talked about how she went into the she went to the bathroom and then she went and brushed her teeth. I said, okay, how'd you brush it? Tell me what you do. Where's your toothpaste? Where's your toothbrush? She went into the drawer. She did every little detail. She said, yeah, and then I took a quick shower before we left. I said, well, what did tell me, what about that? And she said, oh, you know what? There was just a little bit of shampoo left in the shower. So she had put her finger into the bottle and the ring slipped off and was actually lodged in the neck of the bottle. And that's how we found her ring. And the reason why I tell you that story is because think about your work history. You might say, oh, I was a project manager who did all these different projects. Well, that's not going to help you. Think about, oh, I remember this one project we did with XYZ company. Yeah, and I had to do some research on that before we could even get started. And oh yeah, and then I had to collaborate with, and as you do that, you'll find details you totally forgot about, and all of a sudden you look and think, wow, that was a great situation there, and I have a great example to deliver on my resume or in interviews or whatever. I hope that was an okay analogy, story for you. I thought it was pretty amazing that we did that. But, and I didn't have to buy my wife a new engagement ring, so that was good. The last thing to do to take age out of the equation is make sure the words you're using, words matter, right? You could say your experience instead of 25, 30, 40 years experience. You can say, you can go back to the 1980s when you've got your first job, but you don't need to. You could go 15 years or 15 years or 3 jobs, more or less. You want to make sure you're socially engaged, you're using media links. If you have an AOL email address, you might as well change it to OLD.com because that says you're clearly left back in the 90s or early 2000s. You need to have a good email address. And if you're only listing responsibilities, then you're not differentiating yourself from anybody. So really look at the words on your resume and your LinkedIn profile. Think about what you say in an interview. Are you truly differentiating yourself with accomplishments, or are you just listing things out? Are you saying things in interviews, and we're going to get to interviews in a minute, but like, oh, in that situation, what I would do is I would do this. Or are you really telling them what you did in a similar situation? Just some other things, I'm sorry, to separate yourself or to overcome that age thing is, and I think David mentioned that earlier, keep yourself up to date. If there's training or certificates you can get, in terms of technology, I am not great at technology, but sometimes, you could kind of fake it a little bit. In other words, if you were to put on your resume things like something referring to technology, utilize spreadsheets and track that so-and-so, or something that refers to your ability to use Excel or PowerPoint or things like that. Sometimes a reader might look at that and say, okay, they're good with technology. I don't need to ask them about that, unless the job requires deep technology knowledge. So you might be able to prevent some of those conversations that you're nervous about around technology by getting it out yourself, being proactive with it, and not having to respond to it as a question. In today's world as well, you need to be able to communicate that you can work independently, that you're well planned and organized, that you take initiative. Because think about it, folks, most jobs for the foreseeable future are remote. So your resume and your LinkedIn profile and interview, or your messaging needs to really be able to communicate that if you hire me, you can trust me that I'm working on my own, that I'm well organized, I'm well planned, I'm going to get things done. So your resume may, even if you feel it's great, you may need to look at it and think, well, in this post-COVID world, this remote work world we're working in now, does my resume give people confidence that I can work remotely effectively? So I'll take a break here before I go on to the next one and see if there are any more questions, Dave.
Yeah, Mike has a question, and I think you answered this in a prior slide. How far back do you go back in time in your resume? Do you give everything, or do you restrict it to the last 10 or 15 years? They're going to find out anyway from the formal application.
Right, and I would say that, one of the things, I'm not usually a big stickler on how long the resume is, but I do try to keep them to 2 pages. I do think 15 years or 3 roles typically is how far you would go back. But one thing to think about is this. Let's say 20 years ago, you had a sales role. And then since then, your roles have been in other areas. And now you're looking at a sales role. Well, if you were just looking to stay where you were in the same direction your career was going, I would say, yeah, just maybe you list it at the very most. You just have it listed at the bottom of your resume. But if it's a new sales role and you haven't done sales in 20 years, you probably want to put more detail around that to show people that, yeah, I've done sales before and I've been successful in sales. So sometimes it can depend on what job you're going for.
Okay. And Barbara has a question. So the responsibility statement and accomplishments come under the accomplishments portion of the resume. Is there a way to tie that back to the timeline in the work history?
I'm not sure I understand that question. I guess what I would describe it, and if I didn't get this, please, Barbara, I think you said it was, tell me.
Barbara, yeah.
Okay, Barbara, so if you think about a resume and you have your job, right? Let's say finance director, XYZ company, whatever. Then you'll have a responsibility statement. It's not indented or anything. It's just responsible for closing year-end books and managing the budget and forecast for a $2 billion company. Then you would have your indented bullet points. Those are your accomplishment statements. So those, again, might read, developed a new process and procedures to close books at year end that reduced the time to do it by 2 weeks and increased accuracy by 95%. Obviously, I just made that one up, but that's the difference between the responsibility and the accomplishment. Did I get that one, Barbara?
So let's assume that she does, unless we see a comment in the chat.
Okay.
Oh, okay, she wrote. Very good. Thank you, Barbara. So good, let's move on.
All right, so now the understanding part of the trust success model. Really want to focus here on social media and LinkedIn in particular, because it really is very important part of your job search. I mentioned earlier that nearly 3/4 of jobs are landed through someone you know. So you need to build an effective network. Also, anytime you're going for a conversation, whether it's a networking conversation or an interview, chances are that person is going to go to your LinkedIn profile and check you out. Or even if they're deciding whether they want you to come in or not, they're going to look at your LinkedIn profile. So the first thing you need to know is you have to have a good professional picture. It's often the first impression someone will have of you. If you have no picture at all, that is bad. Bad, because that says to me, what are you trying to hide? And then there are bad pictures, pictures that look like mug shots, where people are just, you know those old pictures from like the early 1900s where people, they never smile. They always look just like they're in pain or something like that. You want to have a picture, a headshot from the chest up that shows you smiling, that shows you looking like someone who's approachable, someone who's friendly, someone who, you know, I can see working with that person. So you need to make sure it's a good professional headshot. And if you don't have one, and maybe you feel like I don't want to spend the money on one, I don't know if the libraries or Princeton Library does it. I know in Philadelphia, the free library gives free headshots once or twice a month. I'm sure you could find something similar in your area. Even a good iPhone can take a good professional picture. You just have to set yourself up that way. The headline is what comes right below your LinkedIn profile. This is where there's very important real estate, and you want to have keywords or phrases in there, because here's how LinkedIn works. It actually works just like you and I would use Google. A recruiter will put in keywords into that search bar, and then they'll see what names come up. And typically, like we would do with Google, they're going to look at those first entries on that they get back. Maybe they'll look at the entire first page. Unlikely they'll go beyond that. So your goal is to get to that first page. So when you're developing your headline and actually everything else throughout your resume, you want to think in terms of keywords. Think about what words might somebody put into that search bar on LinkedIn to find someone like me, to fill a role that I'm interested in. And if it's, you know, if you're a project manager, you should have project manager in your headline and throughout your profile. And, you know, there are other words that you want to put in there. So think about that. What words would they put in to find someone like me? The next part that's really important on your profile that differentiates it from the resume is the About section. Now, the About section is your chance to really sell yourself, to really market yourself to the reader. And so, you know, similar to the summary on your resume, you need that first line to be powerful, to make that person want to read again. You know, I don't have a big problem with it being even the same opening that you might have in your resume, followed by the same powerful accomplishment statements, bullet points to prove that statement. The third paragraph in your About section should be about how do you work? What kind of environment do you thrive in? What kind of leader or coworker are you? What kind of culture do you think is best? You want to paint that picture of yourself. And then the last paragraph could be something personal. You know, when I'm not working, I like to volunteer with this group, or I enjoy coaching my kids, or I like hiking with my wife and dog. Something that paints a full picture of yourself so that somebody reading that really says, huh, I see this person, I understand them a little bit, I'd love to really learn more about them. I want to bring them in for a discussion. And then if you have any special certificates or licenses, you could also put those in at the bottom of your About section, or a call to action. If you want to discuss a role with your company in this area, please reach out and talk to me. Now, the other thing about LinkedIn is that there's so much information there. You need to make sure you're building a productive network. So here are some tips on how you can build a network, because regardless of your age, you need to have people help you maybe make that next step, get into that interview process. So one way that one of my latest favorite ways of building a network is if you scroll down on your profile page to your education and you click on the logo or the logo of your college, it will bring you to that college or school, whatever school it was, their LinkedIn page. Along the left side, there are boxes that says something like jobs and different things, but one of those buttons is alumni. If you click on alumni, it will bring you to a page that shows you how many alumni are on LinkedIn, and usually it's thousands and thousands of them. A little over to the right, maybe a little bit down, it says where they live and where they work. So it gives the city where they live and the companies they're working at. And the really cool thing about this is that below that is every person who graduated from your school who's in, or went to your school, who's in LinkedIn. And if you click on one of those cities up top where they live, they'll show, let's say there are 200 people who live in Philadelphia that went to your school. You click on that, and then you look below, and you'll see all 200 of those people. On the other column, there's where they work. Let's say you're interested in IBM. Click on IBM. It says there are 40 people working there. Again, below that, you'll see every picture of those people, and you can reach out and connect to them. And it's an easy connection. Hey, David, I just came across your profile on LinkedIn. I see we both graduated from Lehigh University, and also we have some other things in common. I'd love to add you to my professional network. Now, if you send that out to your college alumni, or you could do that, by the way, with former companies you worked at, click on that logo, you'll get the same kind of information. You're probably going to get 8 or 9 out of 10 people accepting that LinkedIn invitation. And then I suggest you follow up with a request for a conversation. Hey, I want to make sure that my network is not just a bunch of names of people I don't know. Do you have time to get on the phone? Maybe we could have a quick 15-minute networking conversation. Now, unfortunately, you send out 10 of those, you may only get 1 or 2 people who even respond. It's a pet peeve of mine that if I have a first connection on LinkedIn, especially if I just connected with you and I'm asking you something, I think you should respond. I think it's professional. I think it's appropriate. Even if it's to say, I'm sorry, I don't have time, or I'm not interested, or whatever. We're first connections. You should let me know one way or the other. But I digress. My point is that's how you could really expand your network. You want to have at least 500 contacts to help elevate you in the LinkedIn search algorithm and going through through college alumni or through old companies and colleagues that you've worked with is a great way to build a productive network. And just keep digging, keep digging. Who are your people connected with? What companies do you want to look at that you might be able to find people that are connected there or people who are connected to other people? And then with LinkedIn, one of the things that's really important to know is it is not a spectator sport. You need to be active and engaged on LinkedIn. And there are different ways to do that. And what I recommend to you is that you market yourself through LinkedIn by getting your name out there as often as possible. And there are certainly ways you can do that. One thing I would suggest is you join groups. And you could join up to 100 groups. And the reason why I think that's a good thing to do is because that gives you access to more people to connect with. The second thing about joining groups is that you should join groups of areas that you're interested in. There are project manager groups. There are PSG of Mercer County groups out there, right? There are groups for every industry and every area of work. And you want to join those. Now, realistically, you can't be active in 100 groups. What I would recommend to you is think about what works for you and target 3 to 5 groups that are associated with the type of work you're interested in. And every day, block off 30 minutes of your time and say, I'm going to look in each of those 3 to 5 groups, and I'm either going to write something and post an article myself. I'm going to comment on somebody else's post. I'm going to try to start a conversation in that group. Or I'm going to repost something that I saw that I think would benefit this group. And when you do those things and you're leaving insightful comments that demonstrate your knowledge based on that great experience you have, when people keep seeing your name over and over again, when the recruiters who are in those groups, and don't mistake this, if I'm a recruiter looking for a project manager, I'm going to go to the project manager group and look for them there. So you want your name to be the one that they recognize, that they remember, that they say, let me go look at this person's profile, because I see them every week. I'm seeing 2 or 3 comments that are really good comments from them or articles they're posting. And that's someone I want to talk to about a potential job. So being on LinkedIn is great. Being on LinkedIn is good. Being engaged on LinkedIn is great. So you want to make yourself attractive. You want to build your network, help yourself get found by recruiters. You can certainly find opportunities, and you want to go into that jobs tab on LinkedIn. You want to, on your profile, make sure that if you're working and you don't want everybody to know, that you check off that only recruiters can see that you're looking for your next opportunity. If you're out of work and you want the world to know, you can let everybody know that you're looking for your next opportunity. But you want to put yourself out there, and you want to look and follow companies that you're interested in to wait and see those job opportunities pop up for you. I talked about how to use those keywords and how a recruiter would use it to find you. Your goal being to get to that first page. So LinkedIn, I think, is a really important part of a job search, and hopefully I gave you some good tips there or things you might want to make sure maybe you forgot about that I was able to remind you of. David, any questions at this point?
Yeah, we do. AK has a question. My LinkedIn photo is an executive promotion photo for my prior job. My friends say I should have a more casual photo. What do you think about casual versus posed photo if you're applying to both casual and formal workplaces?
Okay. I'm smiling because my wife's a photographer and she hates the stiff headshots. Her headshots usually are a little more, not animated, but they're just a little more relaxed. You know, I think that you have to think about today's world. I mentioned earlier, is wearing a suit and tie, if that's what you're talking about, I mean, I hate to say it, I think it is outdated. I don't even know if bankers wear suits and ties anymore. But if they are, they're probably the last bastion of people that are doing that. So I think, though, there's a mix. I think you could either have a nice button-down shirt or even a sports jacket without a tie, and you could present the message that you want to present. Professional, yet approachable, current person.
Great, thank you. Pat has a question. When you use a title like project manager, should you precede it by a term such as IT, production, engineering, etc.?
That would depend on what you're looking to do. If you are specifically focused only on being a project manager in one of those areas, then I would say yes. The other thing you could do is put in, you could have project manager as one word, you have tech, IT and other engineering afterwards, if that's the case. I'm not sure it's, well, I do think it would be helpful because there's so many different types of project managers out there. So you may want to be specific that way. But if you want to open yourself up to other opportunities, you may want to be more general.
Thank you. Ronnie has a question. Do you have suggestions on where to find articles to share on LinkedIn, such as professional, current event, industry, etc.?
Yeah, I would say, you know, I find some people are better at Google than I am. I'm okay at it. My wife's really good at it. And I would just keep trying to play around that way. You know, if it's a specific industry or, you know, Google that industry and or the publications that you're aware of. Or if there's a topic that's related to the industry you're in, Google that and you might find out. Like, for example, I'm speaking next week on finding a job in the post-COVID world. And I just put in research. I just Googled post-COVID-19 interviewing, post-COVID-19 job search. And there are tons of information out there. So just play around with different search words in Google or even on LinkedIn, and I'm sure you'll find the content you're looking for.
Terrific. And also on LinkedIn, you can join a LinkedIn group of a particular area, and I'm sure you'll find people sharing content.
Yes, very good.
Edward has a question. I have two careers, IT and music. Would you recommend having two LinkedIn accounts for each, or would it be better to keep both combined?
Yeah, I think two LinkedIn accounts often causes trouble and confusion for people. They don't, you know, somebody might look for you and find your IT one when they're looking for someone for music and say, oh, I must have been mistaken. Maybe it's not them. I think you want to have one LinkedIn profile, and I'm not sure if the IT and the music are related in any way, but I might focus, though, within your jobs, whether it's LinkedIn or in the resume, on those transferable skills that or experiences that somehow in the wordsmithing of them, you could show that they apply to either area.
Okay, great, thank you. And Joanne asked, should I remove, quote, 25 plus years from my about section? This resume.
Yeah, I mean, like I said earlier, personally, I would, I mean, you can have it there. They're going to figure it out anyway. But I typically might fall back on either, you know, award-winning senior manager or with a track record of success or something like that. I don't think 25 plus years is like an automatic rejection. I just think, you know, maybe it could be more subtle than that. But if you have it on there, you know, I guess I would need to see the rest of your resume or the rest of that statement to let you know my opinion on that. Again, I think it could go both ways. Sorry, I don't have a better answer than that.
Good, thanks, Ken. Let's move on.
Okay. So when I talk about simplify as part of the trust success model, I'm talking about the fact that interviewing is just, it's a stressful situation. It's, you know, you have so much you're thinking about. How do I look? How do I sound? Am I sitting up straight? Am I making good eye contact? What's my background look like if it's virtual, which it probably will be? So you want to simplify things, make things as simple as possible. And you also have to remember that we humans have a very small attention span. It actually dropped from 15 seconds a few years back to 8 seconds. People, I don't know how they figure this, but they say goldfish have a bigger attention span than we do. But if you think about it in these terms, average human speaking speed is 2.5 words per second. So if you have 8 seconds to grab someone's attention and you speak at 2.5 words a second, you actually have only 20 words to really grab someone's attention. Talk about first impressions. You know, this is where you've got to make that branding statement I mentioned, the elevator speech, that introduction, that tell me about yourself. You've got to make it impactful. You've got to make it attention grabbing, that that person says, whoa, I really can't wait to keep talking to this person and learn more about them, because I think they got what I need. And so the only way you can do that is by practicing these 3 Ps of interviewing. That's prepare. You need to take the time to get ready for that interview and research it. You need to practice. And you need to have a process that's repeatable, that comes so easily to you that you're not even really thinking about it in the interview. And when you're that confident because you're prepared and you're practiced and you have this process, the stress level will come way down. I led a sales campaign when I was a regional director, and we called it Bring It On. And the idea was, we're going to know our stuff so well that we don't care what the client asks us. Ask me any question, bring it on, I got the answer. And that's how you want to walk into an interview. Not cocky, but confident that doesn't matter what happens in this interview, I'm ready for it. And so Sun Tzu was a 5th century military strategist, wrote the book, The Art of War, which is a perennial top-selling business book. And it's not to say that war and business are the same, but strategically, some of the approach is the same. And he talks about how victorious warriors, they win before they even go on the battlefield. You know, picture those athletes that you see before a game. They got their headphones on. Maybe they're lying on the floor with their eyes closed. They're playing the game before they even get out on the field. So you need to think about the interview the same way. Think about how you're going to win. Think about what's going to happen in that interview and how you're going to adjust to it or respond to it. And then go in there and you will win that interview. Now, in today's world, as I mentioned, especially when you're of a certain age, you need to show that you have a comfort level with the way things are done today. And most things are being done virtually today. So you need to be comfortable with your computer, your technology. You need to make sure that it's set right, that your background is good, that you have, actually before this call, if you would have seen me 10 minutes before the call, I was sweating. I'm actually in a friend's apartment. He's out of town, and my son and his girlfriend are at our apartment, so I had to get out of there. But I was a mess trying to set it up. But I also called my son. I said, listen, let's do a quick Zoom check. I want to make sure that I look good, that you can hear me well, that you can see my presentation. Interviewing is stressful, right? So if you are worried about whether this is going to work or not, you're just elevating your stress. I knew after I did those tests, okay, I don't have to worry about technology. I got that down. So you need to make sure that you feel the same way. The lighting is good, the background is good. Make sure if there are other people in your house, they know that you're interviewing and they're not going to come barging in. Do you guys remember that, I guess it was a couple years ago now, there was a Zoom interview or video interview in Europe, and this guy's professor is talking so intellectually about some kind of geopolitical situation, and all of a sudden one of his kids comes walking in the room. And then his second kid is on one of those rolling tables, comes in, and then his wife comes screaming into the room together. It's still, I still laugh as if it's the first time I've seen it when I see that video. But you don't want to be that person. So let people know that. You also need to be energetic and positive and enthusiastic. You know, it's good to be cool, calm, and collected, but people want to know that you want this job that I want to offer you. So you need to show them that and tell them that and be focused. You know, interviews can be long. You could have multiple interviews. You can't let yourself wander, because especially if you're of a certain age and you can't demonstrate staying power and focus, then how can I offer you a job that I need you to do 8 or 10 hours a day if you can't stay with me for this hour or 2 hours or 4 hours? And be confident, expect to win. Don't be cocky, but go in there that, hey, I've been doing this for a while. I have this experience and these skills that nobody else has, that I'm the only one that can bring this to this role. And believe that and know that to be a fact. Now, I know you guys are familiar whether you call it SARS or CAR or whatever you call it. I love having the process like this. And there are a number of reasons for it. First of all, storytelling. Everybody loves a good story, and this is the way you can tell a good story. And you want to make yourself the hero of the story. Sure, it's not you going in and rescuing somebody from a burning building, but there are ways you can build a little suspense and show how you were the person that helped come through that situation. The other thing I love about having a process is that, I don't know about you guys, but when I'm in a stressful situation, sometimes I can ramble and digress. And I have been in interviews, I will admit to you all, where I've gone on, and I've had to say to the person, "Oh, I'm sorry, but what was the question again?" And that is not a good look in an interview. So this forces you to be kind of within boundaries. It creates boundaries for you so you can give a good straight line, clear and concise answer to an interview question. Now, I mentioned that most of you are probably familiar with STAR or CAR or whatever acronym you use. But the one thing that I think is a little unique about this is the final S. So why am I telling you this? And the reason why I think this is so important is because this gives you the opportunity to paint the picture of yourself in that role. It gives you the opportunity to make the connection between your answer and that job. And you take it out of the hands of the interviewer to make that connection or to interpret it the way you want them to. By saying, "So why am I telling you this?" you're telling them how you want them to receive that information that you just gave them, and you're making sure that it's focused on what you think will help you win that job. So you may go through a whole story about, I'm a sales manager and I lead 10 sales reps. The situation was we needed to make our quarterly close and we were behind a week with a week left. So the task was I needed to put together a plan where we increased our calls and had more success. So the action I took was I brought my team together, we identified the top prospects in each territory, and we committed to making 2 calls over the next 10 days before the end of the close of the quarter. The result was that we not only hit our quota, but we exceeded it. And the reason why I'm telling you that is because the best laid plans don't always work out in sales. And you need someone in this role who's going to be analyzing the data, identifying the challenges early enough that they can do something about it, and then can develop and execute a plan to be successful. So now I know as an interviewer, okay, yeah, that's exactly what I'm looking for, because I got a district out there that doesn't know what the heck they're doing. So that's how that, so why am I telling you this works out. Now, you can't have answers for every question before you go in there. But what you can do is, and what I recommend you do is, literally write down or type in your stars. Type them in for different examples that you have. And then look at the job description or the job posting that you're going for. Identify those skills or competencies that they're looking for. And you take your stars and say, okay, here's one. I'm going to put this under decision making. I'm going to take this one and put it under problem solving. And then when you get asked a question in the interview, you don't have to think about the example. You think, they're asking me about problem solving. I got one right here. I'm going to answer. I'm going to use this stars example. And you should probably have about 5 or 6 of them, maybe 7 of them going into the interview. Now, some of them could be the same. Problem solving and analytical skills, you could argue, are the same. You might even be able to do a conflict management and leadership being similar, or performance management being similar. But the point is, all you'll have to do, if you have your stars and you've practiced them so they're conversational, and you know what competency they address, when you're in that interview, the only thing you have to think of is what competency are they looking at. And every now and then I hear these crazy questions like, how much would you charge to wash every window in Philadelphia? Well, that's a ridiculous question, I would say. I wouldn't answer that in the interview. But I would say, they want to know about my problem-solving skills. Let me tell you, I got to be honest with you, I can't tell you exactly what I would charge, but here's how I would go about it. Because when I had a similar situation where we had this new product and we were going to be marketing, we need to determine the price of it. And then you go through your task, action, result, and so why am I telling you it? So you don't actually have to answer how much per window, but you've told the interviewer how you would go about answering that question. So let me hold off on that before we start to wrap it up wrap up the trust success model. And David, any questions?
Yeah, so Christopher asked, should you ask the HR manager if you should wear a suit and tie during your Zoom meeting with the hiring manager?
I think I might ask them less specifically. I might say, I just want to make sure I'm dressed appropriately. What would you recommend? How would you recommend I dress for that interview? I don't think that's an unreasonable question, but you may not be able to get an answer. I'm guessing if any of you work with recruiters, they don't always respond. So once again, I would say, I don't think you could go wrong with a sports jacket and a button-down shirt without a tie. If you know what they wear there, I might take it one step up. If they're a startup and they're all wearing T-shirts, I would probably just wear a button-down shirt without a jacket. If it's a bank I'm interviewing with, a finance institution, I probably would wear a sports jacket.
Okay, very good. And Tetyan has a question. This combines interview and branding. How would you answer the interview question, what do people say about you when you're not in the room? That's based on a Jeff Bezos quote, by the way. Jeff Bezos, the CEO of Amazon, said, your brand is what people say about you when you're not in the room.
That's good. I would say, how would I know? I'm not in the room. No, I wouldn't say that. What I would say is I would go back to my branding statement, like I mentioned earlier. I would say, people have told me that they really love working with me because I'm a problem solver. And I find that oftentimes people come to me when they can't solve a problem. Let me give you an example, and then I go right into a star showing them. I hope that helps.
Okay, good. John asked, are there particular questions candidates should always ask in an interview?
Well, let me first say that the one thing you should never do is say, no, I don't have any questions. I also don't think, even if you've asked questions throughout the interview, I still think it's good to hold one in your back pocket at the end. So there are some, once again, I would suggest go on Google and see what are great interview questions an interviewee can ask. One of my favorite ones is, if I'm lucky enough to get this job and I'm sitting here in front of you a year from now, what would I have done to get the top performance rating that I possibly could? The reason I love that question is twofold. One, it tells the interviewer that I'm focused on performance. Some people, by the way, might tweak that to say, what would I have done to help you, my boss, get the best performance rating you can get? But it helps them see that I'm focused on performance. The second thing it does is it tells you what's most important to that interviewer. So as you're hearing their response, you could be taking notes, but thinking to yourself either, oh, I don't know if I addressed that. So maybe when they're done, you could say, I think that's really important too. I'm not sure, if I was able to convey to you how I believed so much in that perspective. Let me give you an example, and then you could give the stars. You certainly can take what they tell you and put it in your thank you note afterwards to respond back. You mentioned that this was most important. I just want to remind you, and then you could reinforce that in your thank you note. So I really like that being a question, but also never ask a question that you could get the answer to. You want to show depth. You want to show that you did your research and you understand the company, and your questions, they may not be at the level of depth of someone who works there, but they certainly demonstrate that you know something. You're asking a question like, so what product do you sell again? Probably not a good question. Make sure it's a question of substance.
In the last company where I was a hiring manager, someone actually asked me as the first question, so did I get the job? That's also a question you would not typically ask.
Right. It depends. The humor can work for you, it could really hurt you. I will tell you that.
I think he was serious.
Yeah. Well, okay. I did that once when I was interviewing, we were doing a college recruiting day, and this kid came in and he was beautifully dressed. This was in the day of suits and ties. Really handsome guy, very bright. And I said, tell me about yourself. And his first response was, well, basically, I'm an underachiever. I do okay in school, but I could do a lot better if I really put some effort into it. I almost laughed out loud when he said that. And I did stop the interview shortly after that and say, listen, I'm not supposed to do this, but you're not getting the job. But let me give you some advice.
Okay. AK has a question. In music, there's a concept of too much rehearsal where you get too relaxed for the performance. Do you think there's a point where you are too rehearsed for an interview?
I do. I do think it's like with everything too, like with your resume. You can probably look at your resume every day and tweak it. And there comes a point where you know the expression, don't let great get in the way of good. Get to the point where you're confident and you're comfortable, and then let it go and just trust yourself, believe that you're ready, and go for it. There's also, you remind me of another expression, it's a journalism expression called don't bury the headline. And that goes back to when I talked to you about a powerful summary of your resume, powerful opening statement in your about section on your LinkedIn profile. You want to get it all out up front. Think about a cover letter you write. If you're writing, I'm writing to you about XYZ job, rec number, blah, blah, blah. You've taken those first 20 words at first potentially impactful and you've blown it. I would recommend you start with something powerful. Don't bury the headline. Like, I'm a project manager with those years of experience who's done this, and I believe I have what it takes to help your company be more successful. Boom, right off the bat, hit them hard. Don't waste time.
Great, thanks. All right, home stretch time. Let's move on.
Okay, so this is just a couple slides here, and then we'll go. Isolation is the enemy of the unemployed. I truly believe this. I love this statement, and for a long time I tried to find who said it, and I realized I think I said it. And I'm like, wow, I'm so profound. This is probably it. This is probably as profound as I get. But I do believe this. I mean, we all have a voice in our head that is sometimes good, but often evil. My wife had read this book about this guy going on a spiritual journey. And the opening line in the book, and please forgive the language on this one, but the opening line is, that voice in my head is an asshole. And I can't relate to that anymore. There's so many times I hear that voice in my head saying terrible things about me. You're never going to get a job. You're not good enough. You're not as good as him. You're not as good as her. And if anybody said that to me, if a friend of mine came up to me and said, I don't know, I'm too old. I'm 55 years old. No one's ever going to hire me. I would say to them, you're good. Are you kidding me? You've got so much to offer. And I would encourage them and support them. And yet sometimes we let that voice in our head just keep going and going. And we would never say those things that are in our head to somebody else. So I think it's important to practice self-compassion that way, but it's also important to get out. When you come to meetings like this, they probably are inspiring and motivational to you, and you're meeting other people and you're helping other people and they're helping you, and that gives you energy and positive feelings and it moves you forward. So don't lock yourself in the office. It's even harder now during these COVID times. Get out, talk to people, meet people, even if it's virtually. It's really important that you do that. You'll get motivation, you'll get new ideas. Things will happen that will never happen if you remain alone in front of your computer all the time. And you may ask yourself, how did I get here? David, do you know the song that comes from? I'm guessing you will.
No, I can't place it.
No, nobody? I don't know if anybody. I'll give you the answer. It's David Byrne. You may ask yourself, how did I get here? You may say, my God, what have I done?
Yeah, the Talking Heads. Yep. Okay.
There you go. Right. But it doesn't matter because you're here, regardless of how you got here. And you can't go it alone. And there are two types of teams that you need. You need your family, your friends, your support group, who will be honest with you, but who will be supportive of you, who will encourage you, who will pick you up when you're down, who will celebrate with you when you're up. You need people around you that just love you unconditionally and or a good friend of yours that just want you to be successful. And then you need your network. You need people that are going to help you professionally, that are going to make connections for you, that are going to lead you to your next job. And without both of those teams, you're going to make it really much more difficult on yourself. So I know a lot of people don't like networking, and I can understand that. A couple of things to think about, especially if you're an introvert. Believe it or not, networking for an introvert, it's kind of made for introverts. Because networking is not about you. It's about the person you're talking to. It's about asking them, tell me about your career. How did you get here? What do you love about your job? What challenges do you have? If you can help them with their challenges, that's even better. You might be able to connect them with someone who could help them. It's about asking them for advice. You give them a short, brief overview of who you are and what advice do you have for me to try to get into this industry or get back into the industry? Is there anybody else you could connect me with that I could have a similar networking conversation with? Because networking also is not about asking for a job. And that's why you don't only want to network with people in your industry, you want to spread it. Because I may be in pharmaceutical sales, but I know people in finance, I know people in manufacturing, I know people in jobs that I have no connection with or knowledge of at all. So don't limit yourself. And remember, it's not about you and it's not about asking for a job. And as discouraging and frustrating and aggravating as looking for a job is, for all the no's you get, for all the lack of responses you get, it only takes one yes for you to achieve your goal, for you to be able to feel that success again that you deserve, that you've had throughout your career. Where you are right now, if you think about it, and I see some of the people on here I see, you have 15, 20, 25 years or more of success, of a track record of success, of experience. What you're experiencing now is a blip on your radar screen. It may seem hard to believe right now, but you have to believe you will get your next job because you deserve it. Not because you just out of nowhere deserve it. You deserve it because of your track record. You would not have a 25-year career if you weren't successful, if you weren't good at what you did. So remember that, and remember, every no that you get is getting you closer to a yes. So before I put the final wrap on it, David, are there any other questions?
Let's see. They're not a question. A couple people are already saying thank you and amazing presentation. Thank you so much for providing so much applicable information. Great job. A lot of good kudos. So yeah, thank you, Ken, so much. I'll tell you what, if you have the quick wrap or another slide or two, yeah, go through it, and the question may come up.
I'm sorry. Okay, back to me. Okay, so just very quickly, I believe that this trust success model can help you. It's just a process that makes sure that you hit the key things you need to hit to have a good job search strategy and tactics and plan to be successful. I would love to talk to you folks and help you. David's going to share the slide deck with you. Each of these are active links. I'm happy to talk to you about your job search. I am not a heavy salesperson. We'll talk about your situation. I will help you in any way you can, coach you as if you're my client. At the end of the call, if you want to talk about continuing, we will. If not, there's no pressure. I'd just love to connect with you and expand my network, and that would be a great thing. So thank you all very much. Good luck with everything you do.
Great, Ken, thank you so much. And still the messages of appreciation are coming in. You can go check the chat on your own if you'd like. And by the way, I will be downloading the chat also at the end of the program. Once we turn this off completely, it will be available on our website. Ken's slides are on our website right now. On the website, psgofmercercounty.org, on the right side of the website is a sidebar, and on every page there's a link called Meeting Presentation Documents. It's right in the middle of the sidebar. So click on that, and there'll be a whole list of this year's presenters and presentations. Ken's right now is right at the top, and when you click there, you'll get his slide deck. The chat will be there. Later on, a link to the video, but the video will also be in our YouTube channel. There's a link in the sidebar to that as well. So, but it is posted right now. It was something I did, I think, during the letter U is when I got to doing it. I really liked your point about age discrimination is not a number, and I think that's probably something we've thought, oh, I'm over 50, I'm over 55, it's age discrimination. But you really put it in context, which is it's something else. Maybe we're not up to date on the latest technology. Maybe we have low technology, or there's a concern that we're not willing to adapt. Change is sometimes harder for older people. So it's nice that you've highlighted that and made us aware of it. And I also like some of the tips you had for taking age out of your resume, replacing 25 years of experience, those words, with the word experienced, which highlights really the same thing. So great points, and this was just very relevant. Thanks again, Ken.
Thank you.
In a moment, we will, of course, wrap up, but I am going to keep the session open for open discussions. It's free for all. You can unmute yourself at that time. Just wait a moment or two. Want to let you know what's coming up next week and the week after right here. Next week is October 23rd, and our good friend and Ken's friend as well, Lynn Williams, will be here. How to develop successful job search strategies. And Lynn is really a master, certainly one of the top presenters in the world at support of job seeker support. She leads the Philadelphia Area Great Careers Group. So that's next week, the 23rd. The week after that, October 30th, feel free to wear your favorite Halloween costume. Bart Jackson will be here, a fun guy. COVID and career realities, how to adapt where opportunities lurk. So really good presentations coming up the next couple of weeks. Other programs on the horizon. Tomorrow morning, the Career Support Group will meet at 8:30 in the morning. And George Pace is presenting. George Pace, good friend of us and a lot of the groups, the future of work. So he'll be talking about that. Check out careersupportgroup.org. And of course, every Tuesday evening, New Jersey Job Seekers will present virtually, and that's Tuesday, 7:30 in the evening. You're all welcome to come. What's nice is we tend to be a smaller group, and maybe 7, 8, 10 people, and we talk about what we want to talk about. Maybe you've got an interview or something else coming up, and we all help and troubleshoot together. The link is on our PSG of Mercer County LinkedIn group right now. PSG of Central Jersey, they meet every Monday morning at 10:30. You can check out their program at psgcnj.biz. PSG of Morris County presents every Wednesday at 9:30 in the morning. You can check out their website, psgmc.org. And also Career CIT, Career and Transition. They will be meeting also. I'm sorry, I don't have the link, but if you Google Career and Transition Short Hills, their page is actually on the Christchurch website. Their meeting is tomorrow also at 8:30 in the morning. And then, as I mentioned, I will be giving a presentation a little later today, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, a free virtual program called Promote Yourself Beyond Your Resume. It's at the Moorestown Library's website. I did put the link in chat. If you want, I'll put it in a little later, but you're welcome to sign up for free and come visit us again. So that's our program coming up. Once again, thank you so much, Ken. A big appreciation. I just really enjoyed your program. Ken's been with us before. I'm so glad you continue to support us. And we hope that we will see you again, hopefully in person, but virtually is always good too. So I want to say thank you very much, everyone. Hope you all have a good week and hope to see you all, at least virtually, very soon. And if you are not able to hang around with us on our call over the next few minutes, we'll keep the meeting open for about another half hour or so. Hope to see you all again soon. Stay well. Bye, everybody.